And back here on CBS Sports HQ, delivered by Papa John's. Some notable late games. We got NC State playing host to Texas Tech. Later, we'll see a battle of ranked units with Miami on the road at Texas A&M, and the late game in Los Angeles, California, USC unbeaten, hosting Fresno State at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And Russ Thaler back here in studio. The rest of the guys eagerly waiting to help you make some sense out of today's college football slate and some cash while you watch it all unfold. We've got Kenny White, the Wizard of Odds, CBS Sports college football writers Chip Patterson and Barrett Sallee, and college football analyst John Berger. Let's start with 18th ranked Florida. They beat South Florida 42-20 last season, which is great. But it didn't cover the 29-point spread as road favorites. Later tonight, the Gators get the Bulls in the Swamp. The spread is 24. Kenny, what gets you excited about this one?
Yeah, I'll go. You know what gets me excited these Saturdays? I love this 4-box with the four of us. Everybody's got great information, and we've got some different games today, but that's great. It's good for college football. I like South Florida today, plus the 24. This is South Florida's bowl game. This is it. This is their Super Bowl, playing against the Gators. These kids know a lot of those guys. They played high school football. Billy Napier, I think, is doing a great job. Lost last week versus Kentucky. Plays Tennessee next week. Really think this is a sandwich game. Jerry Bohannon, at quarterback, the Baylor transfer, has got to pick it up. He's a better quarterback than what we've seen so far. But I just think it's way too many points for a game that I don't know if Florida's going to be too interested in playing this football game.
Yeah, I'm going to go Gators. They need to get right game in the worst way. Anthony Richardson specifically needs to be able to get right. We saw against Kentucky in the loss how important he is to everything that this offense is going to do. And I think that South Florida's defense 100% provides the opportunity for Richardson to go out there and be able to get the kind of scores, to be able to have the kind of success that is going to get Florida going on the right track. This is a spot where, with Tennessee on deck, you wonder what you're going to get in the second half. So maybe a first half play would be the move. But ultimately, South Florida's defense is not going to have any answers for Richardson. I think he has a huge day. I think Florida can cover this number.
Guys, this game feels like one of those draining games with not a lot of energy in it. And look, Florida coming off that loss, South Florida rolls up in here. And Kenny mentioned quarterback Jerry Bohannon. I don't think he's thrown a touchdown pass the entire season. I don't think Florida's going to be all that motivated to play the game. You can see South Florida's defense flash sometimes. I just think this is kind of an ugly game, not a great deal of energy in it. I understand Kenny's pick, but I'm just going to go a little bit different than that. I'm going to take the under in this game. I just don't see a bunch of points scored. I think Florida runs the risk of kind of getting bogged down earlier in that game just because of the energy level. I'm not sure they're going to be all that interested to play. I think the smarter play here than taking the points and rolling with South Florida is to take the under, and that's what I'm going to do here is take the under.
I'm going to grab the Bulls, and it's really for one reason. It's that I don't trust Anthony Richardson. He doesn't have a touchdown pass all year. He's got a touchdown to a two-point conversion pass, but not a touchdown pass. I think we sort of fell in love with the Anthony Richardson story when they beat Utah, but you look at what he did last week. When you take away his legs, now part of that was because he was a little banged up, but Kentucky took away his legs. He couldn't throw. And really, you go back to the Utah game, he couldn't throw then either. He did all of his damage on the ground, and that's how he became America's darling. I don't trust him. Jerry Bohannon hasn't been great, but Bohannon's good enough to at least keep this within the number. I think it's too many doggone points, and I think all of you are right. Energy-wise, this game's going to drag on a little bit. South Florida's going to come out, I think, pretty hot because they are, like you said, familiar with a lot of these players on both sides. But in the end, just going to kind of drain out. Florida's going to try to run out the clock, deflate the football. They're going to win the game, but South Florida, I think, from a quarterback perspective, is actually in a better spot. So give me the Bulls to cover.
All right, so Florida, 24-point favorites at home. Clemson, 0-7 against the spread when favored by 28+ since 2020. The spread is 34 today with the Tigers hosting Louisiana Tech. So Barrett, going right back to you. Where do you go with this one?
I'm going to take the Bulldogs. And look, I saw Clemson up close and personal against Georgia Tech here in Atlanta. They have a great defensive line. And that's the end of all of the things that they do great because they don't run the ball all that much. Will Shipley's okay. The offensive line's just okay. DJ Uiagalelei is a mess. And Brian Brzee, who is the best piece of that defensive line, isn't going to play because he lost his sister this week. So all those things combined just tells me that Clemson, yeah, they're going to be motivated for their star. They want to win it for his family, but it just does not feel like Clemson is capable of covering this big number. Until they start to throw the ball effectively and at least take some pressure off the running game, I'm just not going to trust the Tigers.
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about Louisiana Tech under first-year head coach Sonny Cumbie trying to get in and maybe kick in the back door against the backups for Clemson's defense. So I'm going to take Clemson in the first half, especially if you can get it under 3 touchdowns at 20.5. I think that the method to what Clemson wants to do is shut out Louisiana Tech in the first half, get a couple of touchdowns. I see them up maybe 28-3 at halftime, and then they'll start to really take things a little bit easier, go a little bit lighter, play a little bit of shell coverage defensively, lean on the run game offensively. So instead of having to sweat whether or not Clemson's going to end up covering the 33.5, I feel much better about the fact that they're going to have a 3-touchdown lead at halftime. So take the Tigers in the first half and don't even sweat anything after they come out of the locker room.
You know what? I'm going to go with Barrett on this one. First of all, Louisiana Tech's going to want to play this game. I mean, you get an opportunity if you're sitting in that locker room. How many times in their career at the school they're at if they get a chance to tee it up against Clemson? That's a big deal to these kids. I understand kind of what Barrett was saying. I'm going to take Louisiana Tech and the points. I don't understand kind of what's going on up front at the point of attack on Clemson's offense. We're used to seeing this offense get the ball down the field, a dominant run attack, an offensive line that can get movement up front and kind of shove people around. That's just not there. I mean, the biggest thing that I noticed is they're just not putting the ball downfield in the vertical passing game. They used to be able to gut defenses right down the middle between the safeties and really just kind of suck the air out of any defense. You just don't see that right now. I don't see any of it. I just think this number's too big. I'm going to take the Bulldogs and the points in this situation.
I'm going to go over in the game, and I'd love to take 28-3 at halftime. That at least that you break the shutout. But I'm not really that worried about a shutout. I think Sonny Cumbie's a good enough coach offensively with Parker McNeil, the Troy transfer, to put some points on the board. But I think this game's won, and I think that everyone has their concerns about Clemson's offense, and reasonably so, because they didn't look good last year and they haven't started great. But DJ Uiagalelei, that's what I like to call him because it's much easier to say. 68% completion so far this year. And this will be the weakest defense he's seen. And Louisiana Tech's defense is extremely weak because they're very inexperienced. And both of these teams are throwing the football more than they're running. Louisiana Tech throws it 54% of the time. Clemson is throwing the ball 51% of the time. And both teams' pace so far is above average in speed. Louisiana Tech gets a playoff every 26 seconds. Clemson every 24.5. I think this defense is weak enough that Clemson's finally going to have a big day on offense. I'm going over the total.
All right, we'll jump East Coast to West Coast. The late start, USC and Fresno State. The total's what stands out to me, guys, in this one. 72. The first time any USC game had a total over 70 since the Sam Darnold years. First time for the Bulldogs since David Carr was slinging it for Fresno State. John, what stands out to you about this game, maybe outside of the total, or maybe it is the total?
I can't talk about anything other than that. That number is so big, and just out of principle, I'm going to go and I'm going to take the over on 72
Nice.
points. I didn't think I was ever going to do that. I just want to see what happens. I'm not going to put a lot of money on it, but you kind of got to do that every now and then to stay engaged and have fun with this. Look, for USC, first of all, Fresno State is one of those teams if you don't know a lot about. This is a team that's much more physical than you would expect, and they're very talented in terms of their skill players, which you don't expect if you don't follow the game. But for USC, I just think that this is a situation where, the shine has kind of come back on SC's program. Offensively, they're having a lot of fun. If you watch their body language and the way they carry themselves and kind of the vibe around the program, the way they're playing defensively, they're having a lot more fun this year. I just want to see this offense kind of explode. I think they're going to put a lot of points on the board. They know a lot of kids that play over on the Fresno State side of the ball. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch, and I just have too much confidence in USC's offense right now. It's going to be bombs away. I think they're going to continue to make a statement nationally as they continue to put up a lot of points. I just want to see what happens, but I'm going to take the over here.
I'm taking the Bulldogs plus the points. It's again, a Super Bowl game. Fresno State against USC. So many of these kids from Los Angeles playing up in Fresno because they couldn't get a scholarship to USC. USC didn't want them. And Jake Haener, very, very experienced quarterback, completing 74% of his passes, 8.5 yards a pass. And he's a career 67% guy. He's got the accuracy. He's an NFL quarterback. And Fresno losing off the Oregon State game. USC plays Oregon State next. They're looking ahead to that game, and there is some swagger. And you know what? You got to really prove it through the entire season first before you're that good, not after just a couple games. I think this is going to be a game that USC is going to be a little bit surprised with how good Fresno actually is. I think they're going to take them for granted a little bit. This number's been toppling down all week, and it's a little bit lower, and the total is even continuing to drop. The total I see down to 70.5 now in this football game. So I'm taking Fresno in the points.
Listen, I love Caleb Williams. I love Jordan Addison. I love Travis Dye. I love Lincoln Riley. But the reason this game has such a high over-under is because of Jake Haener. It's because Jake Haener is an elite quarterback, and the Fresno State quarterback is going to give Lincoln Riley all that he wants in this game. I don't necessarily know about the win total, but I do know in the fourth quarter late in this game, Fresno State's still going to have a chance to win because its quarterback is a flat-out warrior. So give me Fresno State. I'll grab the points. In fact, I think we talk about Pac-12 after dark. USC sometimes falls victim in Pac-12 after dark. It could happen tonight.
Listen, much respect to the Pac-12 killer Jake Haener. But this is about Caleb Williams. And this is about a USC team that is about to run off 6 straight wins to start the year and just be an absolute phenomenon within college football. I think USC wins this thing by 14, 17 points, covers this spread. And I do have concerns about Fresno State because Oregon State went in there and took their cookies. I mean, that was a game that they were, we're setting up, we're going to make it to overtime. And then Oregon State just ripped it out. It was a total Charlie Brown-Lucy football situation. And I think that responding from that and getting off the mat, it might be just the difference in not being able to cover this spread. I'm going to roll with the Trojans. I think that they continue to have success, not just offensively, but also with the defense that, while giving up some yards, has been very opportunistic. And I think that that can continue against the Bulldogs on Saturday.
All right, guys, that's a look at the late games. We're almost done, but we're not quite done yet. So let's recap some of the picks from the late slate of games. And big props going out to John Berger, who is the only one who had the huevos, the chutzpah, to take the over at 72 in the total between Fresno State and USC.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.